the show is about, you know, meeting razor blades, chopping off heads, sticking people in coffins and lighting them on fire live on stage. You can see all this in Dark Realm as well. Dark Realm, for those of you that, you know, we should probably explain this to them real quick. It is a combination, it's kind of a mashup of genres. It's live performance of my live Gothic Illusion stage show intermingled with an actual horror film narrative. So there's a storyline. It tells a story of a master illusionist with a deadly secret, and as the story unfolds, it you know, is interwoven with segments from my stage show. It's really unusual. It's really cool. It's won awards at the Indie Horror Film Festival, and it's gotten some really great reviews on it too. It's got an amazing soundtrack, you know, like I've mentioned earlier, and you can find the soundtrack as well as the movie on Amazon. It's also on iTunes and Spotify, other places too. But it's got great music in it. It's really fun. It's really cool. So yeah, but thank you. You can see all those illusions on there. And it is. The stage show is really fun. It's not like, you know, it's a very unusual and different illusion show. And
I'm looking forward to watching it. I'll tell you that.
Please check it out. Yeah. I think you'll enjoy it. Gary, did you get to check it out since last time
I watched half of it, and I'll be honest with you. I fell asleep, and it's nothing to do with you or anything. You know, a lot of people don't realize, okay, between trying to get this going on more radio stations and signing them up, you know, and booking guests, I spend 14 hours a day on this show. You know, and you know, and then I'm a zombie after those 14 hours. And that's usually when I go in the bedroom and turn it on, and you know, and then either I can stay awake or sometimes I just fall asleep. But I will say it is worth watching, because I'm in to the horror movies, okay? I'm into the scary stuff where your heart just starts, you know, pumping, you know. At least I know I'm alive that way. And what I saw of it, and I will finish it here probably next week, it is worth the watch.
Oh, well, thank you. I truly appreciate that.
And there's some hot babes in it, too.
There's some lovely women in there, and there's some really cool illusions you won't see anywhere else. And we got so much good feedback on the narrative that they wanted to see more of the storyline too, along with the illusions and everything. I mean, it all started with my co-star and director Vincent Blanchio in the movie, who plays Price, my agent manager in the film. And he came to me, Vinny did, and said, "Hey, let's do a video. Let's shoot, you know, your show." And I said, "Well, let's not just shoot the show. Let's make a movie out of it. Let's do something very special with it, because anybody can do a multi-camera shoot of their show, and it turns out looking like an illusion or a magic special for television." I'm like, let's make it really special and different, because what I do is so different with the, you know, being, you know, my audience isn't, you know, just your typical, you know, magic loving audience. My audience is more indoctrinated into dark culture. They're all about horror and the supernatural and the paranormal and the occult and things like that. And so I wanted to make something that was really for them, for my audience. And I thought a really unusual way to present it would be, let's make a horror film out of it. So we did. And to do that, we kind of mashed up the genres between live performance, almost like a concert film, and then the horror film narrative, and make so it's like a horror film and live performance, and as well it's really different. There's really nothing else out there like it. I mean, it's inspired by cool movies like The Wizard of Gore by Herschel Gordon Lewis. Even David Copperfield was in Terror Train, a horror film that came out in 1980 that he actually performs in and acts in a little. And even Vincent Price, you know, who's a huge favorite of mine, and Vincent Price did a movie called The Mad Magician, which was back in the late 50s, I believe. Yeah. So there's a precedence for kind of magic in horror films, which is interesting. But this is the first time you'll ever see an actual, you know, actor who's also an illusionist present, you know, live illusions and entire illusions that is, you know, particularly themed for horror and the supernatural and a gothic illusion show inside a horror film like that. So it makes it really different like that. I wanted to, give it something that was, there's no reason to do it if it's not something original and not in something that it was, perfect for my audience of people who love dark, sticky fun.
Well, you know what I like about what you do, Ron, is, watching, like, again, when I had you on last time, I watched numerous different other magicians doing their stuff on YouTube, and all that stuff. I'll be honest with you, a lot of them is like if you're watching the Ed Sullivan show, they haven't, they haven't advanced really. What you do is so unique and different, and it brings in a different. You're right. It brings a different crowd of people to watch it. But I mean, you put so much more energy into it, and how can I say it? You scared the audience from one standpoint where they really feel like they're part of it. I mean, but they're scared.
Yes. Well, I mean, that is part of it. I mean, I have people when I'm eating razor blades and stuff, there are literally people out in the audience that are watching it through their fingers in front of their face and stuff. I've had even big, I've done that alongside, like, I've opened for some bands, some metal bands, in some clubs. And I had this, giant 6-foot biker dude tell me he couldn't watch me do the razor blade act and things like that. So it does. Some of it's, purposely and, provocative and has almost a bit of a sideshow kind of aspect to it in terms of, like the razor blade eating or the vampire's kiss, which is that portion it's in the movie as well. We see, the act where I put the big steel needle through the girl's neck, and it makes it look like a vampire bite. And that's another thing that really can, get people going. I mean, some people can barely watch that, because everybody has such a phobia of needles and blood and things like that. Now, the whole show's not all full of blood and everything, but of course there is, chopping off someone's head and the cremation illusion and things like that. And there's a lot of fun stuff too, but it's very interactive. I bring people from the audience up on stage and we do things with tarot cards and some other kind of spooky fun. But thank you. There are a lot of other magicians and illusionists out there, but there's not really anybody out there currently at all that takes it to that place, that's really informed by, and all my stuff is inspired by, horror films and the supernatural and the macabre and gothic industrial culture and things like that.
Paranormal.
Yeah, the paranormal, absolutely, which is why it's perfect to be on here with you, because your audience loves that stuff as well. Everything from the paranormal to cryptozoology and all the cool stuff that you talk about here. That's why I love being on shows, like yours and with you, because that's my audience more than your typical, very average illusionist who's trying to, really just kind of, do something that's way more mainstream than this. But I mean, even what we do is come into the mainstream so much because everybody talks about this now. It's been out there for so long and talked about more and more and more. All of these things in dark culture and all of these topics have been, there's television shows about them. There's shows like yours. There's radio shows. There's people talking about it. It's a huge, topic of interest now. Halloween's huge. The paranormal is huge. There's so many different shows and everything. And that's part of what that audience, as that grew, that audience kind of came to me, and of course what I did appealed to them. So it all kind of cross-pollinated in a nice way, but it wound up where I was, what I was doing, and the audience I'm performing for largely, was into some, cool different things. But even that, like I say, and I'm sure you've noticed this as well, how large the audience is for all the dark mystery out there. People are really fascinated by that.
That's huge.
That's part of what we both tapped into. Yeah.
Well, one thing I did watch the other night, I was on the internet, researching you a little bit more. And then I came across, I guess, 3 magicians, we're talking in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s where things went wrong, where the guy was, done the trick hundreds of times of decapitation. And the one time he did it wrong and decapitated the guy in front of a live audience. And then, and then there was one where I guess where he would recruit these soldiers, but they weren't soldiers. He just recruit people off the road, right? And they would, take their guns and aim it at his wife, right? And well, let's face it, they were blanks, because, but the one soldier was so, I guess, intrigued and scared of being in front of all the people. He didn't remove the head of the bullet, and he killed his wife. I mean, right in front of a live audience. And
wow.
But you know what? Yes. But I hate to say it, without those things happening, I think, I hate to say it. A lot of people, like I told you last time you were on the show, there is a certain amount of people that go to, those and what you do because they're hoping to see something. I mean, deep down, people are funny. I don't know how you feel about it, Ryan, but people are always looking for, blood and guts. And there is a certain group of people out there, kind of, that's their life.
Well, yeah, and all you got to do is drive by the scene of a nasty car wreck, and you'll see it. Everybody gathered around to get a glimpse of what happened and the blood and the gore. And one of the things that I really like about Ron is he calls it what it is. It's an illusion.
Oh yeah.
And I love that. I love the fact that he's not trying to sell it as something that it really isn't. And the whole just watching that trailer has intrigued me a lot. I'm looking forward to catching him live if he ever makes it up to Seattle.
Well, I think Ron takes it all to a new level. And that's, like I was saying at the beginning, when Ron came on, I've seen other magicians in the past. I mean, I'm at the age where I remember, Ed Sullivan and a lot of those old shows, right? Jack Parr, and all those people where they would have magicians on. But it seems even like now, even on YouTube, there's some magicians on. But they're doing the same old tricks over and over, year after year. You see what Ron does, it's totally unique. And, and yeah, it's on the dark side, but that's the whole point of it. And,
that's what makes it great.
Yeah. Hey, Ron, you can send me a check in the mail for that.
Done. I feel like I need an affiliate program for you guys now. But I truly appreciate it. I mean, even Dose Magazine, when they did an article on me last year, and they were talking about how the style is so different, from anything that's out there, and they called me like the outsider of the outsiders, because they consider all of the world of magic and illusion kind of a fringe thing, and then even though it's very mainstream, it's big, and there's all kinds of shows on it now, and then. But it was cool to be considered, even on the fringes of that, which is kind of a subgenre of entertainment right there. And then they said, they took note of kind of my glee of performing something so different and dark and everything. So, I thank you a million times. I really appreciate it because I thought there was, when I started in this, it was very traditional. I mean, it was birds, bunnies, and formal wear and crap like that so many people had done in the past because it's what I grew up doing. But I quickly grew out of that and decided that, I wanted to make it my own. I wanted to do something I wanted to do on stage. I wanted it to be inspired by the things that I love, the things that, I'd like to make it totally unique and put my own brand on it, do my own thing with it. I wanted, it had to, come from me. So that's where I went with it because that's what I was interested in. It was interesting because it was a comment a friend made. He said, "You're way more interesting off stage than on," and that set off a light in me. I'm like, "Oh well, we've got to fix that crap right now." Then, I was like, so it was time to turn that show, in what I was doing, and turn it into the show that I wanted to see, which was full of all this dark mystery and things like that. But in terms of what you were saying as well. That I do, since I am, out there, and I'm in that world that crosses over into and rubs up against and cross-pollinates nicely with the supernatural and the paranormal and everything. I wanted very clear to the audience that, I'm not making any sort of claims, that what I'm doing is a